Hi, this is a live recording of Amie's Small Steps. She wrote an article for our newsletter, a spring 2024 newsletter, and her article was such a good example of using the small steps methodology that I gave a class on it. This is it. In emergency, reach for a better feeling thought by Amie Thornburg. We've all experienced a bad day, one where no matter what you do, nothing seems to go right. You know what I'm talking about. You spill something on your freshly laundered shirt shortly after you put it on. Or in my case, my caregiver spills or drops food on my shirt shortly after I put it on. I wonder why I ever tried to wear an unstained shirt in the first place. It just goes downhill from there. If you have to drive to work, you hit every red light, pothole in the road. If you're me, your therapist doesn't come until later that day and you realize you could have slept an extra hour. Now, no matter what your situation is, it's easy to have a day that just seems to go from bad to worse. How do you handle these days? I try to reach for a better feeling. When you're upset, rarely can you go from upset directly to happy, but you can likely find your way to less upset. So do that. When you find yourself angry that you hit every red light on your way to wherever you're going, take the small step of thinking to yourself, well, at least that doesn't happen every day. Or perhaps you could entertain the idea that you might mean that might mean you will hit every green light on your way home. Yahoo! Then as you go home, when you hit a green light, think, well, the red light streak is over, and you'll feel a little better. If you hit another green light, you can think, now I'm on a roll, and you'll feel even better. Then when you come to a red light, you could think about how grateful you are that there is a system in place to allow everyone to get to where they want to be relatively safely. And your mood can continue to improve just by slightly shifting your thoughts. This can help in virtually every type of situation whenever you want to feel happier. When I'm running behind schedule, because it always takes longer than planned to get me ready to go anywhere, lugging my biped machine and backup biped machine, wheelchair, etc. I'm worried I'll not make it to my doctor's appointment on time. To shift my mood, I might try to consider that perhaps it was for the best, as part of a bigger plan. Perhaps my guardian angel is at work, making me late to miss being involved in a traffic accident. Because haven't we all narrowly missed an accident of some type before? This thought calms me down, and I feel slightly better than I did before. Then, when I'm stuck in traffic, I'm worrying further, because isn't there always traffic? I might take a small step to change my mood by reminding myself that traffic is often the sign of an accident ahead, and how glad I am that I was delayed to not be part of it. And I feel a little bit better. I remind myself that my doctor is never on time, and I can feel my mood shift even further in the direction I want it to go. By doing nothing other than reaching for a better feeling thought, I've shifted my mood just enough to go from worried and upset to feeling calmer and less stressed. The next time you find yourself in a mood you don't like, try and reach for a better feeling thought. When all else fails and you find your mind stuck in despair, take a nap if you can. Sleep always works as a reset for mood and emotions. And always remember, even when you when you have no control over your circumstances, what you can control are your thoughts. And just a slight shift or small step is all it takes towards feeling better. That's great, Amie. I was just, I read it. I thought, yeah, this is a great example of working of and you say it, you say everything there, of doing what you can to change things, and working within your limits of the moment. And if we're suffering, we're semi-conscious. Sometimes we're suffering, or we're really just in that. How do you call it? We're not unconscious, but we're completely captivated by it. We're completely glued in to whatever it is we're suffering, and that's difficult. That has to be broken. We have to, at some point, become aware that we're suffering, and once we're aware, we're no longer completely captivated. And of course, the fact that you're here and listening to this means that has broken. But there may be places where it hasn't broken as well. So when that captivation is broken and we're aware, that's the beginning of us having other choices to make. So when we're aware that our mood isn't great, for whatever reasons, we can look to something which is real to us and consider things from that perspective. And from that perspective, things are different. And that's really what Amie's article shows us so many examples of, is that different perspective, how again and again we can do small changes to it. Because of course, if you just want to make a big change, the difficulty is that you're looking for a big demand in the result, and it doesn't really work like that. That's not how emotions work a lot of the time. Sometimes we can have a strong emotion, and if we express it, we let go of that, then we can move on to another emotion. That's true, but when we're stuck in something, it's a bit more than a surface changing. So it takes time and practice, and with time and practice, we really, and practice involves expressing our emotions, so we don't have a big backlog of stuff that we're carrying, which means that we have a lot more things which we feel a need to change. And of course, that becomes more difficult. It's like trying to pack everything in the car. And in fact, we can only take one thing in our pocket. We're not actually able to take anything else. So what's that one thing in this moment? Not that one thing for the rest of our life, but we might consider that as part of the question. What for the rest of my life would I like to develop in this moment? What can I do with that in this moment? For the rest of my life, I'd like to be, calmer, less stressed, happier, kinder, more standing up for myself. Can be lots of things. But what can I do now with those things that I want, those elements I want for the rest of my life? Healing, of course, but all of those things are part of healing, but healing can be the focus too. For the rest of my life, I want to heal. So what can I do in this moment for that? And this really is the small steps method. So it's a really fantastic application of it in the circumstance of changing perception. And if you get used to changing perception. If you start really practicing that as a skill, if you do it for things like relaxing, so that it becomes very natural and very easy to relax quickly, even in difficult circumstances. When I was knocked over by the wind last year on my bike, and and I was lying on the road. I don't remember how I got there, because I was cycling, then all of a sudden, and I knew from the pain in my arm, I was pretty confident it was broken. I've had a few broken things before. Well, I'm here. And I just counted a few seconds to see if somebody was going to run over me. So after a few seconds, I knew that wasn't going to happen because I was in traffic. And that was it. And I just stayed calm, because there's nothing better than that I can do at that moment in time, just to relax, to let go. And people stopped their cars and came out and, went taken to the ambulance to the hospital and stayed overnight, and they operated the next day and stayed another night and went home, and life continued on. And it is very difficult when we're experiencing loss. Is some perspectives that we want to stay away from because we're not comfortable with the emotions that they produce in us. And so this is digging a little bit deeper, because one of the emotions we often stay away from with loss is sadness. Because that's the nature of our society to a great extent. It teaches us not to feel sadness. You shouldn't feel sad. You should be happy all the time. How many advertisements do we see with people's big smiles and smiling and smiling and smiling? Just going, even though they don't feel happy at all, they don't want to talk to you, they're still smiling at you, So we have this very strongly in our culture to feel, to avoid feeling sadness and to avoid expressing it. In ancient Irish culture, there was 3 types of music were seen as the 3 main categories, and there was joy, sleep, and sadness. I think the ancient Celts had a much better understanding and appreciation of our fundamental humanness, because with the lives of technology and modern society, the picture is more complicated. So from their perspective, sadness wasn't something to be avoided, it was something to be appreciated, which is really different. If we could appreciate our sadness, that would be a big change in perspective. And usually we're sad about something is because we have a love. And there's suffering involved. Suffering in that moment, in a way, related in a way to something we can't change. Because as long as we believe that we can change something, we're not going to go all the way into the sadness of it. We won't go all the way into the, into the suffering of it. We're still energized to change it. It's not wrong or anything like that. I'm not trying to say there's anything wrong. It's just to look at the features of how we work and just to observe and be aware of it more. And then it's easier for us to work with. Imagine with sadness that we can remember that when we're feeling sad, that we're feeling love. It changes. It doesn't deny the emotion, but it's that small, slow change that Amy's article talked about. And just by, we can't go from I'm not going to feel sad, I'm only going to feel love and happiness. Do you see what I mean? This is not realistic. But I can go from I feel sad. There's things in my life I feel very sad about. And they're awful sadness in those things, not just the losses that I've experienced and due to this illness. Other things that I feel very sad about as well. People that can't stay on this journey with me. That's very sad. I care about these people. They can't be here. They don't have the ability. They don't have the ability to be on this journey with me. They don't want to, but they don't want to because they don't have the ability. And so this is a difference then. I'm not any more angry and blaming them for me feeling hurt that they're not here to support me in some way. I'm not caught up with that so much. I more just feel sad that they're not able to do that. Of course, I feel sad that there's so many things that I'm not able to do as well. But it's because I care about life, because I have love. And I still have love. And so that love helps to carry me through. Our love is what helps us have the energy to change. And when we lose our fear of facing the feelings that we have, so we know we feel sad, we're feeling, and we have that acceptance, that takes love as well. And with that acceptance, we can recognize that we feel sad because we also feel love. And we're supposed to feel love. Isn't that the greatest human thing that we can experience or do? So sadness then becomes a pathway to love. When we have that active in us, and our shortcomings and other people's shortcomings, they're much easier to live with because we're also living with love that is animate in our life. It's not just love which is, part of our despair, or it's love which is helping our inner richness. And so that helps to free us up from the limits that we had. And this is part of the real fundamental transformation of healing. And I know that, if you can imagine this, you can imagine how fundamental this is to heal, the rest of our life. But it's one small step, one small choice at a time. So it's not about loving ourselves for an entire day or changing our perspective for an entire day, because we can make one of the techniques, which sounds a bit similar, but it's a bit different. We can have the main focus that I want to work on today is love or calmness. So, well, I'm not going to do it all day long, just when I remember. Like, so we're not under pressure then. I don't have to do it for the day. I'm just doing it during the day when I'm doing it. It's a subtle kind of change. But these kind of changes sometimes help to take the pressure off in our mind by changing the way we say things. Instead of me doing it for the day, I'm doing it during the day. So it doesn't really have any beginning or end time. It doesn't, you know. And then I'm choosing during the day lots of times to do it. Every time I remember. Or I might do something more structured during the day. You know, there's no limits. So do what works for you. And oh, your comment, great to hear read out loud. Yeah. Oh, oh, was Karen was here and then she went. Hang on. Oh no, I've gone back too far in messages. All right. Okay. I don't even know. I have no idea what's on. I can find out what time it is. I've totally lost track. It's 22 the hour. So let's do a guided meditation then. I've forgotten what week this is. Were you supposed to do guided meditations or the step thing today? I had it figured out a couple of days ago. I knew what I was doing, and then I just lost it all. It just went completely blank today. And then I read Amie's article and went, "Oh, that's fine." So be adaptable. Definitely be adaptable. Being adaptable to the moment is kind of what it's about, though, isn't it? Being adaptable to the moment. That's what Amie's article like is adapting to all the little difficulties in the different moments. Being adaptable to the moment.